Hi, students, and welcome to today's lesson. I'm Miss Lee. Today, we will continue to explore the question, why do plants and animals live where they do? Are you ready? Grab your pencil and your science journal, and let's get started. Over the last few lessons, we thought a lot about our little caterpillar. We learned that a caterpillar's habitat has everything the caterpillar needs to survive. That makes me think about other kinds of organisms. How do they get what they need to survive? Also, I know that plants and animals are organisms, but I wonder, are humans organisms too? Are adults organisms? Are babies? Are we organisms? What do you think? Well, I know we're living things, and I know that each of us lives in an environment. That environment might be a city, a suburb, or a rural area. We may not all live in the same type of place, but every one of us lives in an environment. Like other organisms, humans need certain things to survive. Let's see. We need food, clean water, and fresh air with oxygen, right? But how do we get them? What parts do we have to help us meet our needs so we can grow and survive? Well, we put food and water in our mouth. We breathe through our nose and mouth. And when we want a snack, we see it with our eyes and grab it with our hands. These body parts are characteristics of humans. A characteristic is an observable part of an organism. Observable parts are parts we can see. Now, if you observe plants or caterpillars in your classroom or at home, remember, do not touch the plants, the caterpillars, or the caterpillar's habitat. Touching the caterpillars or moving their habitat could hurt the caterpillars or cause them to die. If you do touch either the plants or the caterpillars, be sure to wash your hands right away. Okay, let's begin. First, let's look at these organisms. Some radish plants. Here's another photograph of the same plants. I took the second photograph from above to help us get a really good look. What do you notice? Call it out. Well, I noticed that they have leaves and that the leaves are different sizes. Do you see how some are bigger and some are tiny? I also noticed that those leaves are attached to stems that start in the soil. Here I pull one radish plant out of the cup so we can see the entire plant. What do you notice? I noticed the roots. How interesting. The roots are a characteristic of the radish plant. How do you think the characteristics help the plant survive? What else do you wonder about the radish plant and its characteristics? Let's pause our radish observations for a moment. Here is another organism, a caterpillar. What do you notice? I noticed that it has so many legs. Why do you think it is important for caterpillars to have many legs? Here's another photograph. I took this photograph from above the caterpillar. I think I see two eyes here. Do you? I know the caterpillar has a mouth because I can see holes in the leaves. And we know caterpillars love to eat yummy leaves. Remember, characteristics are observable parts of an organism. We observe two eyes, many legs, and a mouth. So what do these characteristics do for the caterpillar? I wonder, how does each characteristic help the caterpillar survive? What do you think? I think the caterpillar uses its eyes to see food in its environment. The caterpillar uses its legs to move around and get food. The caterpillar uses its mouth to eat and drink. All these characteristics have functions that help the caterpillar survive. The caterpillar would struggle to survive without these characteristics. Let's look at the radish plant and the caterpillar side by side. What do you notice? What do you wonder? I notice these organisms have very different characteristics. For example, the caterpillar has many legs and the plant has none, not a single leg. Why is that? Well, I think caterpillars need legs because caterpillars need to move around to find food. Plants stay in the same place, so they don't need to move around to find food. What about roots? Why do you think the plant has roots but the caterpillar doesn't? Well, the caterpillar takes in water with its mouth, but the plant takes in water with its roots. These different organisms have different characteristics because they have different ways to get what they need to survive. I wonder though, do you think an organism needs all its characteristics to survive? Well, I'm thinking about my dad. He shaves his head, so he must not need his hair to survive. Also, my neighbor's cat lost part of her tail, but she is still alive. A cat must not need a tail to survive either. I wonder then, how should we find out how a characteristic is related to an organism's survival? Well, we could think about how the organism uses the characteristics. Let's try. This is a rainbow trout. What characteristics do you notice? I see it has a mouth and fins. So, how do you think these characteristics help the trout survive? Let's see. The trout uses its fins to swim around and get food, and then the trout uses its mouth to take in that food. These characteristics will definitely help this organism survive. Now let's look at a land animal and check out its characteristics. This organism is an alpine ibex. This ibex is very different from the rainbow trout. Let's see. What characteristics do you notice? I noticed its hooves, and you just can't miss those horns. How do these characteristics help this organism survive? Well, the hooves protect the ibex's feet, much like shoes protect ours. I just love those horns. The horns protect the ibex from predators. Those characteristics are different from the trout's, but also really important for the ibex's survival. Let's take a quick look at two more organisms. This Cape Griffon has a beak and wings. And this rattlesnake has a rattle at the end of its body and a long tongue. One of your tasks after this lesson will be to describe how you think these organisms use these characteristics for survival. So, different organisms can certainly have different characteristics, but did you notice any similarities? I noticed that some characteristics look different but seem to function the same way. For example, butterflies and birds both have wings, but butterfly wings don't have feathers. Speaking of butterflies, Remember our butterfly fossil? How do you think we could find out more about the characteristics of an adult butterfly like the one that formed the fossil? What do you think? Well, we can do more research by observing butterflies and by looking back at our book, too. Let's start with some observations. I observed the butterfly's legs and wings. These characteristics help the butterfly move around its environment to find food and get away from predators. I also noticed eyes. The butterfly's eyes help it see so it can find food. I wonder if we're missing anything. Let's read to see what else we can learn. We will read a few more pages of A Butterfly is Patient. Try to find characteristics that a butterfly needs to survive. A butterfly is thirsty. To find flowers, butterflies smell the air with their antennae. They taste with their feet, but sip nectar, the sweet liquid produced by many flowers, with a proboscis, a tongue that coils and uncoils. Some butterflies get their nourishment from rotting fruit, like the blue morpho, or minerals. Often a kaleidoscope of butterflies gathers as a puddle club in mud near a pond or a lake to drink water rich in salts and minerals. Wow, butterflies are amazing. From what we just read, I noticed more characteristics we can add to our list. Did you notice any more? We read that butterflies smell the air with their antennae, they taste with their feet, and they sip nectar from flowers using a proboscis. Okay, it is definitely time to update our anchor model. How can we update our anchor model to show our new knowledge? Well, we can label some of a butterfly's characteristics. I'll draw another butterfly and label its proboscis and its wings. Both the proboscis and the wings are characteristics that help butterflies get what they need to survive. Let's also add what we learned to our anchor model explanation. What should we add? We learned that butterflies have characteristics that help them get what they need, such as a proboscis to get nectar and wings to fly. Another one of your tasks today will be to update the anchor model and explanation. So why do different kinds of organisms have different characteristics? After our investigations today, I think different organisms have different characteristics because they live in different environments and have different needs. In our next lesson, we'll take a look at what makes a particular organism a good fit for a particular environment. Let's review your tasks for today. First, describe how a Cape Griffon and a rattlesnake use their characteristics for survival. Second, update the anchor model and explanation.